Welcome to another edition of the Sim Racing Garage. I'm Barry Rowland, and today we have another review for you. We're going to be reviewing the Carbon Sequential Shifter from the ARC team guys in Italy. Now, I've been using this shifter for just under a year now, and it's about time we put it through a Sim Racing Garage review. So let's get started. Okay, I just wanted to give you guys a quick look at how this shifter comes. It comes boxed and packed really nice. The instructions, of course, are included on how to mount it, how to use your USB plug and warranty, and of course a USB cord. And here's where the shifter is. And this thing is really packed nice. You can see how everything's has its own compartment, which keeps it from flopping around when it's making its way over to the USA. And this has the mount for it for the tabletop. I bought that, and that's up here. And there's the screws that you use to attach it to the bottom of the shifting unit. It also has the handle, and in this hole you can't really see it because it's down low, is an extender for this. And we're going to look at that when we get to the overall part. But let's go ahead and pull this out and take a look at it. Okay. And there's the main unit, the sequential shifter, of course. And what I usually do, I try to fish everything out when I first got this box, but I found it was much better just to kind of pick everything up here. And the screws stay in there nice. They don't come out. But the rest of it just kind of falls out, and that's great. You get your handle, little cheapy plastic handle, really. There's nothing special about that. There's the table mount, and this cost extra, but we'll talk about that later. And of course a screw with a knob on it to be able to attach that. This is a little piece that goes onto the top of the screw once it goes through the hole there, and we'll look at that when we see the adjustments. And last but not least, it comes with this little guy. And this is an extension for this. If you take this, it screws right down in the front, and it gives you another couple of inches, or inch and a half or so, of height. And I do use this on my rig because it gives me the height that I want on it. But we'll get to actually that in a minute. If you look at this shifter, now everything is very, very heavy duty here. This is looks like 1/4 inch or 6 mil steel here. This is a heavy unit, and the knobs, everything here is just top-notch quality stuff. You can just, once you get it in your hand, you can feel it right away. The unit itself is all steel. Let's get a little closer look at it there. And it's got an brushed aluminum top on it. It's got the little carbon thing in the front there, if you see that. And of course, this is not going to be shiny and as new as you get yours when you get it out of the box, because I've been using this thing for quite a while. It's all metal construction, very heavy duty. It's substantial when you hold it in your hand. You can tell you've got a nice quality piece of kit in your hand when you hold this. Unlike some of the shifters that I've used before that felt just kind of plasticky because the bodies are all plastic, even though the internals are steel, and they get the job done. But let me tell you, they just don't feel anything like this does. All right. I think we've gone about everything that we can look at. This is not much to it. It is a sequential shifter. But what I'm going to do next is we're going to get to the adjustment parts. I'm going to pull this plate off and show you how these adjustment works. This is where you adjust it here, and you have to adjust it the same amount on both sides. And I'm going to show you inside of here of why you have to do that because of the way the adjustment works. And of course, the adjustment is for the amount of force you put on the shifter to make it shift. You can see it's got a lot of force that you have to put to it right there, and that's the way I like it. I really like it in the stiff mode. Of course, not everybody will, but we'll talk about that once we get there, and also talk about how everything mounts up. So let's go ahead and get to the adjustment segment. Right, so let's talk about the adjustments on this shifter. First thing is, I've got it pretty loose now, just as a demonstration from the ranges you can go to. And you can use it this way. It'll shift just fine, but you can see it doesn't take much force, and it has a longer throw to it, if you will. And what I'm going to do is try to make it a little bit shorter throw, and of course a more tension on it, because I like a good amount of tension on the way I shift. So what we're going to do is take a 1.5 millimeter and make the adjustments along with this 5 millimeter wrench. Now these wrenches are my ones that I use in my shop, so I don't use the ones that come in the kits, the cheapy black ones. They're just, I mean, they have their place, but I like using the good stuff. Okay, so how do you do the adjustments? Well, first of all, of course, you notice the decal on here, and it has a plus sign and a minus sign. And that's clockwise for plus and counterclockwise for minus. And if you go to plus, it increases the tension or the feel of the tension on this shifter. And it's pretty easy to adjust. First thing we want to know is there's these big set screws or grub screws or whatever you want to call them. And they have these 2 white marks on the top of them. And I'm going to try to get it in here so you can see those white marks. And it's hard for me to see on the little monitor here if you can see them or not, but I think you can. So there's 2 white stripes there. And you're going to use that as your reference as you turn this screw either way. And you can see there's got them on the other side too. Alright, so it's real simple to adjust this. You take your 1.5 millimeter, and what we're going to do is loosen a grub screw or a set screw that's inside this big nut here. And let's see if I can get you to see that. There's that one. And of course on the other side, there's one just like it. So let's go ahead and loosen that first. It doesn't take much just to loosen a little bit, maybe even a quarter of a turn there. Like I said, the tolerances, the machining is just superlative on all this, the bits on this particular shifter. I'll take the 5 millimeter, and what I'm going to do is watch those white stripes and turn them 180 degrees. Fortunately, when I do that, it's actually going to go down to where I can't see it. And this is one of the drawbacks of adjusting this. But you can see it easily there. But if it's on my rig and I want to adjust it, I'm going to have to get down there and look at it. So that's one of the flaws with adjusting this. But it's kind of a minor thing, and it's easy enough to overcome. But I just thought I'd point that out. I like to show anything that I think that will cause you any kind of issues. Snug that set screw back up in there, and we're done. And then let's come over to the other side, and we want to move it exactly the same amount. And notice I moved it clockwise, which was going to tighten the tension. But we have to move these 2 stripes exactly to the same point down here that we did on the other side, and to keep it balanced. There's a little balancing act going on here because these are 2 individual screws on both sides of this. And I'll show you, we're going to tool the plates off of this thing so we can see inside and see how that works. And a little easier to understand that way. So we'll just break that loose, a little set screw, and then again we'll get on here and turn it at 180 degrees. That's about right. Snug up our little grubber screw again, and we're done. So now I've got more force in what feels like a shorter throw to push this thing. And I probably would actually, now it's pretty tight now when it's sitting, I'm just holding it with my hand, but when I have it mounted to my simulator, I'm probably actually going to make it tighter than that because I like it nice and tight and short clicks. And this thing can really deliver on that. It really feels like a real sequential shifter when you get it in there, but we'll see that when we get to that part where I'm actually driving with it. And also, if you put the handle on this thing without the extension on the top, the pivot point down here, your hand is closer to it, which gives it the feel of a shorter throw. So you can actually adjust the feel with the height. Now, of course, I'll take this back off, and we'll put the extension on, which is easy enough. And by the way, this stuff is really, really nicely machined. It's and you'll see when we get inside, it's just top-notch quality everywhere through this, except for this. But we'll get to that later. All right. Now we'll put the handle on. And I'm not going to push it all the way down because it's going to be hard to get the handle off. But you get the gist of what I'm saying here. That now it's higher up. My hand is further away from that pivot point. So now it feels actually like there's a longer throw to it. And I kind of like that feeling in using the shifter knob that I use. And we'll get to that in a minute too. But different people have different ways of liking what they feel. But that's the beauty of this shifter. You can adjust tension. You can adjust throw. It's the most adjustable shifter out there. It's one of the reasons I bought this shifter. Other shifters you have to buy, let's say you just want a shorter throw shifter, you have to buy that shifter. You want a longer throw shifter, then you got to buy that shifter. And this is one of the best, or the best, that I've had to date as far as adjustability. All right, so let's go ahead and pull this handle back off. Get my extension off. And what we're going to do now is pull the top plate off, and we're going to pull this black plate, black, it is black, the back plate off, and we're going to have to violate our warranty to do that. But here at Sim Racing Garage, we don't care. We're going to do it anyway. So we'll do that and get right back to it. Okay, so we've got the shifter apart just a bit, and just want to show you, by the way, this plate that I pulled off here is actually a steel plate, not an aluminum plate, which I thought it was an aluminum plate at first. But this definitely is a steel piece, which they've actually etched their name into. And the screws that hold it in are these little panhead machine screws. You can actually see those. And they fit into the counterboard pieces or bits right there like that. Very nice. Very high quality stuff. Very good attention to detail. And we'll go ahead and move this stuff out of the way so it stays out of our way. Now I went one step further when I was just going to show you how this works. I went ahead and pulled one of the bolts out that have that screw inside of it that has a ball bearing. And let's get a little closer look at it here. This ball bearing, whoops, let me loosen my screw here. That set screw there was still tight, so it won't move very well with that, like that. So you can see this actually moves in and out as we tighten and loosen the tension on this shifter. And this ball bearing up here has a spring behind it, and it's all machined together there. Nice little piece. All this is just really, really nice as far as the detail and the quality of craftsmanship. And of course, as we push this thing out or screw it out, it puts more tension on the shifting mechanism. And of course, if you go the other way, it's less tension on the mechanism. And I'll show you how that relates to, because the other one's still in there. And you can see here, go ahead and look at that one. You can see the ball bearing in this one. Oops, wrong side. Let me loosen that set screw real quick with the right wrench. There we go. Now, you can see the ball bearing there. You see it coming in and out? And what it does is it goes up against these two pits here, these two steel spacers. And that causes, when you push this thing back, you can hear that click. Actually, I'll loosen her just a hair. And you can see what's happening is they're going either forward or backwards, depending on which way we're pushing the lever, past that little ball. And as it does that, that ball gets squeezed back into the inside against the spring. And that gives us our tension adjustment. And you can go really heavy or really light on the tension here. And again, I had my friend over here, was a gunsmith, that he was in here when we were tearing this thing apart, and he was just really impressed by not just the design, but the quality of the steel that's used in this mechanism, and the high quality, attention to detail throughout inside the way this thing works. So that's how it works. It's not too complicated, but I wanted to show you that and also show you why it's important to get both of these balls, or both of these set screws in here with the balls, at the same distance to those two pieces right there, those or I just call them spacers. But you have to have them the same length towards each other. And I wanted to show you that so you could understand what I was talking about. So what we'll do is go ahead and put this all back together. Oh, before we do that, though, you can have a quick look down inside there. And there's nylon spacers there that keep this piece centered. And there's a screw there that goes in that keeps all that together. And there's the under end of the screw. It's actually got the threaded part over here. So we'll go ahead and put this all back together. I was going to pull the USB thing off, but it's just a USB circuit board. There's not a whole lot to see there. So we'll just go ahead and leave that alone and put everything back together and get it adjusted up, and we'll go from there. And the next thing I'm going to show you is going to be the shifter handles and what I did for the shifter handle solution that I wanted. So we're going to replace the cheapy plastic handle that comes with this fine shifter. It's just not very comfortable. It's very light. It's long and thin, and over long stints it became uncomfortable. And I'm sure a lot of other guys out there are going to be replacing their shifter knobs once they get one of these shifters too. You can actually buy one on their site when you order this shifter, but I didn't, and I decided to buy one later, and this is what I bought. This is a Sparco universal shifter knob, and the reason they call it universal is because it'll fit a lot of different types of shafts. And then you notice this shaft doesn't have any screws on it, or threads rather, so we can't use a screw-on type. We have to use on a different type. And under this beauty ring here, all that does is hide these grub screws. Let's get you a look there. And there's 3 of them all the way around. And they center the knob on your shaft. But before you do that, you have to put in the correct size of, I'm going to call these plastic like grommets, or seats if you will. And what they do is they fit down inside of here. They look kind of loose when you first hold them up there, but as you press them down inside the knob has apparently has the hole in there, gets thinner or narrower as you press it in, and they're really tight once you get it in there. I don't think I could get the one that's in there that fits this shifter shaft out if I really wanted to. I suppose I could, but it's not going to be easy. That's okay. We want it to stay in there and be hard to get out. So it's pretty simple. Once you find the adapter that fits your shaft, all you got to do is put it on there. But first, you don't want to put it on before you put this ring on, because you won't be able to put it on afterwards. So let's drop that on there. And when you put this on, you just want to push it into that plastic grommet. You can feel it go in there. I kind of use a twisting motion and try to get it as centered around the shaft as I can. And I'll look at it different ways. I'll spin it around, take a look at it, see where it's at. See if I can make it fit better. And it actually, because of the way this thing is made, if the plastic insert is in there straight, it pretty much lines up straight. And then it's just a matter, these things are really easy. It's just a matter of taking the Allen wrenches, and what I'll first do is just I'll tighten it up until it actually touches the shaft, and then I'll turn it around and do the other one. I'm not going to torque them all at once. Kind of like taking a wheel and putting it on a car. You don't want to torque all one at a time. You want to snug them up and then start torquing them in a pattern. So now that they're snug, and I'm going to look at it one more time and make sure it looks like it's even and level. Looks pretty good. And then I'll just go ahead and start tightening up these little rubbers. Whoops. I'm using my left hand here, even though I'm right-handed, so you can see it. And just snug it up. Don't want to over-torque this thing. And I'll go over here and get this one. Doesn't really take much, because you've already pushed it down or pressed it down on that plastic insert. So I'll just slowly torque them up a little bit here. Get it in there. That's about probably good enough right there. So, only thing left to do now is cover up those grub screws with our beauty ring. So go ahead and put that on. I just hand tighten that. That's all it really needs, because it really doesn't come off. Like I said, I've had this a long time, and this shifter knob has not come loose at all. It's taken a beating. And there we have it. So now, ooh, you can see I got it pretty tight right now. And that feels really good. It feels worlds different than this piece of plastic. It really does. If you get one of these shifters, I highly recommend that you change out the knob. It doesn't have to be this knob, but it's some kind of a knob that has more weight to it, and the bigger diameter you have, the more comfortable you're going to be with it. So that's it for changing the shifter knob, or handle, whatever you want to call it. And we're going to move on to the mounting bracket that comes with this shifter, and how we're going to mount it to my SimExperience rig. This is the mounting bracket that comes with this shifter. Now you have to order it, but when I got my shifter, it actually came with it as a kit. And this is one heavy-duty, substantial piece of steel here. It's about 1/4 inch thick, or maybe 6 mil thick. Tell you what, let's just find out what it is. Go ahead and get the mic out on it. And it looks like it's about I'm going to go with 1695. 0.1695, which is well over an eighth of an inch, but short of a quarter of an inch for millimeters. Let's see what it is. It's 4.30 on the millimeter gauge. But it is a stout piece of metal. It's very high quality steel. You can see the welds here. Nice welds, 2 up here, and they got a weld on the back there. And they put this spline on the back to add even more structural integrity to this U shape. And they've also welded a nut on the bottom for the adjuster or the fixing knob to screw into. They have some countersunk holes in there, as you can see. You can see they kind of drilled them out there, or machined them out, so that these countersunk screws can go in there and sit nice and neat and flush. Just like everything else on this shifter, very precision machining done here. Just high quality stuff. The thing just yells quality at you every time you look at any of these pieces, except for that shifter handle, of course. So, if you look on the bottom of this shifter, you've probably seen them before. These are actually pressed in threaded inserts that are pressed into the steel here. So what you do is you just screw these 4 screws in there. And we'll just go ahead and just do that. And what I'm going to do is kind of lay it flat here a little bit and get this puppy started. And again, everything is very, very easy to attach and screw in because of the precision and the care in the manufacturing process for these shifters. Again, ARC does a really good job with everything. Their pedals were just an outstanding piece. If you get something from ARC, it's going to be top flight. I don't see them making anything bad. And we're going to get I believe it's a 3 mil. Let's see if that's what it is. Nope. It is a 4 mil. So it's a 4 mil hex. And of course all we're going to do is kind of hold this upside down here and just tighten them down. And I'm using a ball end hex. You see that little ball end on it, which makes it easy to get angles on different screws. Just makes things easier to do. Now this one right here in the middle and the back, because of this, is a little hard to get to, and even the ball hex wrench has a hard time really getting in there and getting a good purchase. But because they're so easy to turn, it's really not that bad. And we'll get the last one that's really easy to get to, and then you'll just snug them up. You really don't have to torque these very much, again, because the tolerances are so close here, or so tight, that all you got to do is snug them up, and this is not going to move. Right, so the bracket part is attached, easy enough. And if you're going to attach this to a desk, what you'll do, of course, is add this affixing screw on the bottom. And if you put this in, just so it comes up enough to seat in the little hole here, where there's a little, not really a hole, it's more of an indentation right there. It sits right on top of this screw. We can actually screw it up, and you can see it'll actually start lifting it right about there. So just before it starts lifting it is the maximum gap we have here for mounting it to, let's say, a desk or something. Let's see what that is. I'm going to mic this out. Do it this way so you guys can see if you can see it there. And it looks like, well, let me turn it so I can see it. See if I can take it out without messing it up. It looks about 3.833 on the millimeter scale. So that's how much room we have for our gap. Now in inches that would be about 1.50. So 1.5 inches. If you got a desk that's thicker than 1.5 inches, this is not going to work. Now I did have this mounted to a desk once upon a time, and I was able to use this screw-in mount, and even though that's the only contact point, this top of the bracket here and this nylon piece under the desk, it still was very, very stiff. as far as the mount. It was very rigid. Not as rigid as mounting it to a flat surface with just the screws, of course. That's about as maximum you're going to get as far as being nice solid mounting. And you'll see the mount that I have on my Stage 4 rig over there, and how I actually had to fab something out because of the original Stage 4 rig mounting that came with it was just not stable enough for me. I can't stand any flex, and it definitely had flex in it, so I had to do some modifications, some fabrication, some aluminum plate, and we'll see that in a second here, to set it up so I could just bolt this directly to those plates and have a rock solid mount. When you have a rock solid mount, it just makes the shifting so much better. It just, everything is more precise, the clicks, the force. You can really bang on this shifter, and trust me, I've been banging on it for over a year now, and it is still doing a great job. So simple enough as far as the bracket, mounting bracket. If you're just going to directly mount this to a surface in your rig, I wouldn't even bother buying the bracket. It just came together as the kit when I bought it over a year ago, and they don't do that anymore. The bracket is separate. I just wouldn't even buy it. I would just go ahead and mount it directly to a surface on my rig. So, speaking of rigs and surfaces, we'll go ahead next and take a look at how I got this mounted to my SimExperience Stage 4 rig. Alright, so I thought I'd give you guys a quick flyby on how I'm mounting this to my SimExperience Stage 4 rig. I'm going to show you first the original shifter bracket that came with the Stage 4 rig that I have modified a lot. First of all, you can see there's some wings for the top part that comes up, and there's a flat plate across that that's actually that 1/4 inch angle is mounted to. Let's go back around here. And you can see there's 2 bolts to the left there, and originally they went through this 1-inch square bar that goes vertically out, that this other piece mounts to, that actually holds the shifter. And there was some threaded inserts pressed into that 2-inch vertical bar there, and that's how you bolted it up. But it had too much wiggle in it, or too much flex when I was using a good sequential shifter like this carbon. So I made some modifications, ran the bolts all the way through, and I'll show you that on the other side when we get there. Also, there was only 1 bolt holding this piece that goes over that 1-inch by 1-inch square tube that holds your shifter. And there's only 1 bolt there, and I drilled another hole because there was too much flex and put another bolt through that. So that's what I did over here. And just tilting up here, you can see that 1/4 inch 90 degree 6061 aluminum plate that I'm using for my mount, and the 2 bolts holding that piece of angle aluminum to the other piece of angle aluminum. We'll see when we go to the other side. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go to the other side. Alright, now you can see the other side of the aluminum part, but I want to go ahead and get past that for a second just to show you. I actually drilled 2 holes all the way through that 2-inch by 2-inch bar and ran 2 bolts to it. And I added a little 1-inch, or rather, looks like a 1-inch by 2-inch 1/4 inch plate that was just a spare part we used for something else, and I drilled that out to secure it to the other side and really pinch that 2-inch by 2-inch very as tight as I could. And fortunately, it's worked out pretty good. It's pretty stiff now. And you'll see down here the extra hole that I had to drill for the actual shifter, and it doesn't slide back and forth anymore if you want to adjust it. So if I want to adjust it, I'm going to have to drill another hole. That's the way it goes, though. And you can see the wings and the holes drilled through. You'd think that would be pretty stiff, really, when you first look at that, but it really wasn't. Not when I put a heavy-duty shifter on top of it. Okay, so here's the other 1/4 inch 90 degree angle 6061 aluminum plate that is mounted to the top of the original shifter mount. And you can see I have 4 bolts holding that together. And that's very, very stiff. And you can see the other side of the bolts coming through, holding the other piece, of course, that is pre-drilled for the carbon shifter. And also, once I had all this mounted, I still had some flex in this thing after doing all that reinforcing. So my final solution was I went and got an 1/8 inch aluminum angle plate, you can see right here, and screwed that to the 1/4 inch plate and through the original shifter plate. And then I have another screw that I drilled a hole and tapped some threads into that 1/2 inch bar over there, and you can see that screw there. And that holds it from going, lateral forward and backwards movement. That's where I had the flex, and that eliminated it right there. So that was the final solution. As you can see, I kind of went to a lot of work here to get the flex out of my shifter. But it was worth it in the end, because once I had this mounted, it really felt great. And you'll see that once we go ahead and mount the shifter to the plate, and then we'll take it for a run. So let's go ahead and get it mounted, and then we'll drop into the Corvette probably and take it for a spin and see how it does. All right, here we are in iRacing. We're at Mid-Ohio, and we are going to drop into the CR6 Corvette. We've already calibrated the sequential, of course, and give this thing a run. First off, the way I have it mounted to my rig, as we saw earlier in the video, this is really a solid mount. When I pull or push on the sequential, I cannot detect any movement at all in my hand. So we're going to go around Mid-Ohio, which will give us a lot of shifts, because I have the configuration set up on my Corvette so that I can go all the way through 6th gear in most of these little straights here. And you can see I usually keep both hands on the wheel unless I'm going to be shifting. Of course, going down the straight, you don't have to worry about it too much. But when you're dicing in and out of turns, it's something you want to make sure you have your hands on the wheel, especially when it's connected to a Bodner sim steering system. I really love this shifter. It just feels so solid. It's every time I reach for it, it's right where I need it to be. And each click is very solid and definitive. I've never missed a shift because of the shifter. Now, I've missed some shifts because of me, but definitely not because of the shifter. And I have it mounted exactly where I need it as far as ergonomically, so it's easy for me to reach, but still doesn't get in my way if I have to really turn the wheel, and my hands might fly off a little bit as I'm grabbing the wheel and trying to spin it one way or the other. The shifter is definitely wide enough as far as the space goes away from the wheel to has any interference at all, which is an important thing to consider when you're mounting the shifter. It's just such a fun thing to do, to use a sequential shifter. Just very solid shifts. Just when I come up here, bang, 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 down to 2nd, and then coming around, accelerating out of the corner, just going through the gears all the way to 6th. It's just a lot of fun doing this. If you guys have never used a sequential shifter, I recommend it, because it's so much fun, and it adds a lot more challenge to driving the car. Because now you're focusing on the steering and, of course, your pedal inputs with throttle and brake and clutch, if you're using a clutch. But you're also now having to reach over and shift when you're going up or down. And this is a tough track anyway for the Corvette. It's really hard to get the torque down. The Corvette has so much torque. And with these cantered turns around all up and down these little hills, it's really hard to get the power down. And there we come shifting back through the start line. And that's 121.5. I think I've actually gotten to a 126 on this track. So I'm really close to what I would be doing with paddles. Even though I could probably, with a little more practice, get it down even better than that. Probably getting it down to the low 20s, maybe even the high 19s. But anyway, just want to show you the shifter in action on a Stage 4 rig that is heavily modified, of course. And like I said before, in the final thoughts, I'll tell you what I really think about this shifter and whether or not you should actually consider buying one. The guys at ARC have produced a top-flight quality product in the carbon sequential shifter. Just like their carbon pedals, it's built to the highest standards and very tight tolerances. As soon as you have the shifter in hand, that quality shows. As far as the cons, well, as usual with higher quality sim hardware out there, it is expensive. It comes at around $235 for the USB version, plus whatever shipping would be. If you want the desktop mounting bracket, that's another $28. I would not buy the mounting bracket unless you have no other mounting alternative, because as you saw in this review, it's always better to mount your shifters directly to the mounting surface to maximize the stability, which translates into a nice solid shifting feel. Another con would be the plastic shifter handle they included. I didn't like using it. It's just too light and thin. Yes, it will get the job done, but quality aftermarket handle like the Sparco I'm using now just blows that plastic knob away as far as comfort and feel. And the plastic knob just seems totally out of place compared to the very high quality standard of the rest of the shifter kit. But hey, it's not like ARC are the only ones doing this. You'll find the same kind of plastic handles and other popular sequential shifters out there. I'm sure it keeps the cost down, and most of you are probably going to put your own knob on this thing anyway. Another con would be the fact that a lot of race cars driven today don't even have sequential shifters in them anymore, and in most sims you can just map your paddle shifters to your wheel easily enough. So why do you even need a sequential shifter? Well, the fact is you don't. And that brings us to the pros. Using a high quality sequential shifter in your rig just raises the immersion level a good notch higher. When I'm running a GT car or something similar, a sequential shifter for me adds a lot more realism and challenge to driving the car. Now, I'm not as fast as I am when I'm using paddle shifters on my wheel, but I really don't care too much about that. The added fun factor more than makes up for it. Another pro is the ARC shifter really shines with the range of adjustments available to the sim racer, from a very short high effort throw to something like a lighter feeling longer throw or anything in between. The shifter does it all. So if you're in the market for a high quality sequential, this shifter should be on the top of your list. Well, that's it for now. We'll have other reviews on some great sim racing gear in the near future, so subscribe to our channel or just check back frequently. I'm Barry Rowland, and thanks again for watching the Sim Racing Garage channel.